Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, hey everyone, I'm Monica Clavijo, your host of the Bear Experiment podcast, and today we're diving deep into the world of ayahuasca, one of the most powerful plant medicines on the planet. And joining us today is Derek. Derek, I'm going to let you say your last name so I don't butcher it.
Thanks. I'm Derek Januszewski.
Pastor of Pachamama Ayahuasca Sanctuary, which is located in Maine, and to uncover the truth about ayahuasca ceremonies, spiritual transformations, and what really happens during this journey. Now, if you've ever been curious about healing, psychedelics, or finding deeper peace within yourself, this episode is for you. Before we start, please don't forget to subscribe to the Bear Experiment podcast and our YouTube channel so that you never miss another episode. Now, let's dive in. All right, Derek. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me today.
Thanks for
I've been following your TikTok account and all of the wonderful information that you're posting on ayahuasca and all of the psychedelic benefits. And I've been reading a lot about it also with traumatic experiences and people that suffer from PTSD, where this has been like instrumental in them coming out of like that fog and that darkness that they have. Like it's really opened them up to just like, forgive themselves and really find peace within themselves. So I've always been really interested in the medicine, in the ceremonies and how this takes place. Of course, there's always like that fear factor that I have, right? Because, you think like, is this like a trip that I'm gonna like stay on forever? Like, could that possibly ever happen? So why don't we start where you introduce yourself and you tell us a little bit about yourself and Pachamama Ayahuasca Sanctuary?
sure. So I was born in Massachusetts. My parents were going through a rough time. They divorced around when I was two. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad was also an alcoholic at the time, which just kind of led to their divorce. My dad ended up just kind of running off and not being a part of my life mostly up until high school. And so that produced some abandonment, self-worth wounds, and stuff like that. My mom was an alcoholic and always and died an alcoholic death. And she was abusive, physically, emotionally, and psychologically abusive. So that kind of compounded it. And then I went through a lot of other types of abuse, like sexual abuse from babysitters and scoutmasters and all kinds like physician's assistants. It was a lot. In then I finished high school, got married, had kids, and then right around the age of 29, around my Saturn return, which is what I know of it is now, um, I became incredibly obsessive. And I didn't realize that's what was happening. It just kind of snuck up on me. I went from working a normal job, doing normal family stuff to stuck behind computer screens for 100 hours a week with like three screens and a video game, poker, and a job. And I would just lock myself in the office. And it happened gradually, but kind of all of a sudden in a 1 year period. Um, my divorce was dissolved, and that triggered an activation of addiction for me and alcohol and cocaine. Um, I really had a rough time from the divorce until eventually I started going to AA around 2014. In 2017, I realized that AA was not working for me, or I didn't know what the program was, is really what was happening, but I wasn't getting sober. So I was kind of desperate, found ayahuasca because I listened to Joe Rogan's podcast and found a place in Florida and went there. And after my first retreat, I had like 45 days where I felt amazing. All of my depression, my anxiety, all of the results of the trauma, because trauma is one thing, it's fine. Like everybody has trauma.
Right.
What behaviors and thought patterns and discomfort in life does it produce? Like that's the important part. Now we have to heal the root, but what happens because of it, right? And for me, I was having very uncomfortable relationships with friends, family, and romantic partners. I was abusing drugs, I was abusing myself. And so I went there to solve that, and all of that just on a dime changed. About 45 days in, some of my old stuff came back. So I went to a couple of more retreats. Eventually, I started volunteering at the place down in Florida that I found. A year later, I fell out of alignment with the leadership for a couple of different reasons. Nothing, I'm not saying anything bad about them. We just fell out of alignment. There was valid reasons on both sides. So, I went about my life. I didn't really expect to be doing anything but sitting with ayahuasca in the future after that, until somebody called me and says, "Hey, I just got back from the jungle. I learned how to serve medicine. Will you organize a retreat for me?" And I told him no. And he chased me around for weeks until I submitted, basically. And so I knew of this place in New Hampshire. I was living in Florida at the time. So we had our first retreat. It was 5 people, and actually 6 people. And so it went well enough where everybody wanted to do it again. So we did it a second time. That one went even better. And kind of one thing led to another where it just kept expanding and expanding, and the process and the path just kept asking more and more and more of me, until eventually I found myself in a position where I was like, okay, like we have to legitimize this. I need to get attorneys. I wanted to be safe from prosecution and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And as that continued, our safety protocols increased. My responsibility got bigger, and things happened, over that time. But that's really how I got started.
So what are your roles and responsibilities as a pastor of a church, right? Because this essentially is a church.
Mhm. Yep.
So
Uh,
what are some of the responsibilities that you hold other than the legalities behind, so that you guys don't get prosecuted for any like ill will that can happen with anybody, I would imagine, right? Like I didn't even know that this was legal in the United States.
Right. So it exists in a legal gray area. And just to quickly touch on that, we're protected under the First Amendment, freedom of religion, and the
Hmm.
free exercise clause that's attached to that, free exercise of religion, right? Unfortunately, it also is not legal under the Controlled Substances Act. It's a Schedule One substance. So we have conflicting rules, right? But the law supersedes policy. So the law, the First Amendment provides us protection from, supersedes the policy of the DEA, but the DEA has to enforce their policy. So, we have attorneys dealing with all of that. That's one of the things that I manage. I
Right.
don't, I'm not an attorney. So, the other things that I manage are, and my roles as a pastor is largely administrative. So I have to make sure the light bill's paid, make sure that everything is very safe, make sure the lawn is mowed, which I like literally do myself. Um, Making sure all of the mats are comfortable, and that they're sterile, and the place is clean, and the property taxes are paid, all those administrative duties, right? Making sure everything runs behind the scene, everything is fine. And then also, I have a role of like leading the community. So basically, bringing everybody together, being sort of a role model in the community, in the Pachamama community, and then being present for other people when they're struggling. So I take phone calls all the time. And 2 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I take phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning for people that are struggling with some kind of mental or emotional challenge, and I'll answer the call. Not always. I mean, if I'm asleep, I can't, but if I hear it and I wake up, I answer it. I have to be present and be supportive of the community. But the bigger part of me supporting the community is creating the community so that they can support one another, and that's really the major part of that leadership role, is creating a situation where I'm not the centerpiece, I'm just the face. Everybody, the centerpiece is the community, the intertwined relationships between community members.
Okay. So when you offer these ceremonies at your facility, how long is the retreat normally? How many days does that take place? And I would imagine from what I'm reading on your website, you also offer different techniques like breath work, that you're the one that's the instructor in that. Is that something that prepares you for the actual ayahuasca um, experience?
Yeah, breathwork is very, very powerful, and a lot of people don't even realize how much power they have in their breath. And for those of you who haven't experienced a very intense breathwork session, I would seek out holotropic breathwork or transformational breathwork or shamanic breathwork locally in your area, and ask the practitioner, is this an intense breathwork session? You can have full journeys. You can have rebirthing situations. And mine, the way what I'm trying to do is to bring up an emotion that needs to be addressed and then have it be released. So usually 75 plus percent of the people in the room are bawling their eyes out after about 30 minutes.
Really?
Like men that haven't cried in 30 years. Getting
Just through
that
just through the breath work exercises that you're offering.
correct, correct. That
Without taking anything. This is just breath work.
just breath, just breath, only breath, right? Um, And so it helps unblock people so that they can receive more for the medicine. Does it prepare them? I mean, I guess in a way, but it's more about getting the energy moving so that when they sit down on the mat, they've got this thing that came up that they just released. So now they're free of that, and the
Right.
medicine can kind of move more completely, have more freedom and be able to release more and deeper stuff. Because a lot of times on Friday, it is weekend retreats. To answer that question, we host weekend retreats. They're Friday to Sunday. So people arrive by 5 on Friday, done by noon on Sunday. And there's two ceremonies, one on Friday and one on Saturday. So when people have that Friday ceremony, there are about half of people that they either have an experience but don't really know what to make of it and don't
Right.
really can connect with the message, and others, a few, maybe two or three, that didn't even connect with the medicine itself, right? So when we have this breath work and we unlock everybody, the those people that didn't connect with the medicine on Friday, they all get a full experience and really dive deep into what they intended to address when they came here on the Saturday in the Saturday ceremony.
And how long does that trance take? How many is it an hour? Is it, a lot of hours that you're into this? Is it like a whole day kind of event?
Ceremonies start with the blessing. So the shaman or the facilitator will bless the medicine and then serve first cup. About 90 minutes in, most people are feeling it. And we offer a second cup. And then so from there, it just depends on how deep people go and how long they take to come out of it. But the whole process from blessing to closing is usually in the 5 to 7 hour range.
Oh, wow.
The intense part of the journey is 2 to 4 hours.
So walk us through that. Like, okay, so you're giving me the medication, we did the breath work, and I take my first dose of the medicine. Walk us through that process, what people start normally feeling within that 90-minute mark.
Mhm. So when you take the medicine, usually because it's pretty viscous and it's bitter and it doesn't taste very good,
Hmm.
people usually get hit with a little bit of nausea right away, and then that tends to fade into a very mild sort of background, little bit of nausea that's just kind of there. And the first hour is noble silence, meditation, right? We're just going into meditation and waiting for the medicine to start working. Um, Between an hour and 90 minutes of time, this is when some of the visions start to come in. You start to sort of feel it in your body, like a vibration and a heaviness. And then the messaging that comes to people comes in a bunch of different ways. So describing how it's going to be for everybody is impossible because
Right.
everybody experiences it different,
So
right?
everybody experiences different visions. It's a completely individual experience for everybody.
Right. Around 90 minutes to 2 hours is when the peak of the experience usually comes in. And that's when the visions are going to be very vibrant. The messaging is going to be very vibrant. The ego has thinned to a place where the messages can be received. If I was told, and I was told many, many times, you have to forgive your mom, right? Because of her alcoholism and her abuse.
Right.
You have to forgive your mom. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but I'm mad, right? And I didn't know how to forgive my mom. Well, the medicine spoke to me in a way that I understood why she was drinking, where it came from, her childhood, and it allowed me to see so much more of the picture, and that's because my ego was thinned. I wasn't laser focused on one element and one angle of this situation. I could see the broader spectrum because of that thinned ego. Yeah.
So then in essence, those answers that you're receiving, is that from your higher self, your higher conscience that's speaking with you, or is that like your team of spirit guides? Is it something more grandiose than what we are that speak, or is it ourselves where we're just so guarded in this human experience, where we just block everything and we're not able to see clearly?
That's a great question, and I have an opinion, but I don't know. Even people that have been carrying this medicine for thousands of years will tell you they don't even know how it works, right?
Uh-huh.
Thousands of years of all of this, but I have my own opinion, and there's other theories. Some think it's a person's higher self, right? I don't really subscribe to that because, in my view, the thinning of the ego allows for a connection with the divine, with that mystery that I call God, right? So that thinning of the ego takes away what separates God from me, okay, and me from God, because we are one, you know.
Correct.
And so, but the body, the mind, and the ego keep us separate. And so, because of that, the messaging comes in through universal consciousness, the stream of universal consciousness, all that is the infinite, right? The answers are there. I just can't connect with them. And so, grandmother ayahuasca, the feminine spirit, is the one encouraging and nurturing that relationship between God and myself. That's the way that I see it. That's not the way everybody sees it.
Right.
And I think that because the medicine speaks to every individual in a
Differently.
unique way, then somebody else can have a totally different experience and belief, and they're correct.
Right.
I'm correct for me. I'm not correct for you.
Right, right. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, is there a cleansing process before you even take the medication? Like, can I smoke weed? Can I go in there and, be drunk before I take the medication, or is there going to be like a really negative adverse effect by doing that?
Everything that we do has consequences. So, uh, if you want to have the best experience possible for your life and for yourself and for your intentions, you're going to follow what we call a preparation dieta. Preparation dieta is for 2 to 4 weeks, and that the difference between 2 and 4 weeks is how clean and how healthy your lifestyle is at square one, right? So if you eat a bunch of pizza and McDonald's and smoke weed and drink alcohol all the time, a month. If you're vegetarian and you work out and you really look at the different ingredients that you eat, 2 weeks. Okay.
Is it
So
is it essential to be vegetarian as opposed to consuming meat right
nope.
before? No, it doesn't matter.
No, no. Some people find it more helpful. Some people find it more aligned, but you can eat chicken, you can eat fish, you can eat eggs. Okay. Red meat and pork are no-nos. I have a whole belief system around pork, and it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with how emotionally intelligent these animals are and their chemical makeup matching so close to the human body, affecting our mood because of those peptides.
Because you're in essence you're taking in all that energy with the way that that animal was killed, right? If it was a rough death, if they were tortured, essentially you're eating all that energy and you're taking that into yourself. So,
Well, and yes, and an additional layer is that the pork, the pig, that animal, the chemical makeup of that animal is very similar to humans. And
hmm
there's peptides that get released when you're depressed. There's peptides in your body and chemicals in your body that get released when you're depressed. It goes into every cell in your body. And so if a pig is feeling depressed and they have all of that chemicals in those cells of your body, and then you eat that, it goes into your body.
right.
I believe that part of the depression and anxiety problem that we have in the Western world is tied to pork. That's my belief. I could be wrong, and I don't have any science to back it up other than meditation and what the medicine told me.
Are you vegan?
No, I eat meat. I
You
eat
eat
meat.
meat. You just don't eat pork.
I don't eat pork. Actually, that's not true. I eat pork on rare occasions, ethically sourced pork on rare occasions. I'm Italian. I love my meat sauce, my Sunday gravy. I got to have it once or twice a year. It's about consuming it every day, having baconators every Tuesday, stuff like that is where we eat a ton of pork in this country, so much, and the overconsumption of it, anything um uh you know in the right amount is okay. You
Right.
know,
Everything in moderation. That's my philosophy for everything in life. Everything in excess is going to be, there's going to be some sort of negative downfall to anything in excess that you do. But in moderation, you can control it somehow. You can usually continue to do that. So diving into what we're talking about with pork and the pigs and depression. Um, a person that is experiencing any form of depression or fatigue, and they are taking SSRI medication or benzos, is that I would imagine that that's not encouraged, but is that something that you cannot absolutely be on while you're taking the ayahuasca plant?
there's several medications that are dangerous. Okay, and that's any psych med, any pain med, any nerve medication. There is a few others, but those are the main ones. So any psych med at all, that's going to be like Xanax and SSRIs, and it's
Right.
going to be MAOIs. It's going to be like lithium and gabapentin. Anything that affects the nervous system, anything affects the brain, and especially things that affect the serotonergic system. They're all dangerous.
I rem
Like
I remember seeing, and I think it was on Joe Rogan, somebody that was explaining their ayahuasca experience, and they tell him like, listen, you got to be clean, you can't be on drugs, right? And the guy apparently started, was doing coke, and he was doing, he was smoking, he was drinking, and he says that he had the most horrific experience where he was seeing demons and monsters, and it was like the devil was just coming out in his experience. And then he did it where he actually did a complete fast before he went in, was really clean, and even stopped eating right before his experience. And it was a completely different approach to what he was seeing and what he was witnessing. It was answering more questions, and it wasn't so demonic, right? So how, is fasting encouraged also?
I don't recommend fasting because it's an energetically taxing experience being in ceremony. I don't encourage fasting because you need your fuel. Now, if fasting is part of your normal process,
Right, that you're used to it.
then go ahead if you're used to it. But don't just all of a sudden fast, right? Eating good foods and good nutrients to push out the garbage is really effective in cleaning the body. That's the purpose behind the dieta of eating lots of clean vegetables and fruits and fiber and being able to clean out the digestive system and have good elements in your body from the foods. That's really what the dieta is for. And then obviously no alcohol, no cannabis, and no sexual release for 2 to 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. Okay. And okay, so then how about long-term effects from doing this consecutively? Like how often is this encouraged if you feel that you need it? And have you encountered any long-term effects with anybody that they've, are in a long, like they can't come up, how you read about, LSD back in the day, and people were just like, they never get out of the trip. Is this something that can happen with ayahuasca as well if you abuse it?
So it's not even something that can happen with LSD. The thing that was happening with these people that were like going into a trip and never coming out, this was propaganda. What was happening was some people that were predisposed to schizophrenia took some LSD. It triggered the symptoms of the schizophrenia that they were already predisposed to.
Right, right.
And so the number of people or the percentage of people that have schizophrenia that have never had psychedelics and the amount of people that have schizophrenia that have used psychedelics, the number is identical. which means that that's not the causation. It's the genetic predisposition, right? So that's this whole idea of a bad trip of never coming back. This was propaganda. It's not actually real. We've had 3,500 people here. Literally every single one of them has come back. I've taken it 150 times. I've given it to all my kids. They're older, you know. I've given it to all my kids, all three of them. And I feel very, very good about that because it's incredibly safe. It's a difficult journey. It does get a little weird in there. It does get a little, sometimes we can worry that we're not going to come back. Sometimes we can worry that we're going to die because some of the chemical, one of the chemicals, DMT, gets released when a person transitions from life to the next one. And that sort of makes the brain think, oh, we might be dying. And that can be a little bit of a nerve-wracking experience. It's a little scary. I've gone through it a bunch.
So, when people, have this experience in your retreats, are you there almost as a counselor afterwards to answer their questions, from, whatever individual process they went through? Is that something that you do, or is there somebody assigned to that?
There's a whole team of us. I lead an integration circle in the morning every year, every weekend, so that everybody has a chance to share what they experience, and I'm present for that every single time. So if somebody goes through a difficult experience, either myself or one of the integration coaches that we have on the team, pull them aside, have a conversation with them to help them process, listen to them, and give them tools to process what they experienced so that they can utilize the information and utilize these messages, instead of it just being like, oh, my hair's blown back, I'm kind of freaked out, this was tough,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Um,
How about the shamans that you bring in to perform these ceremonies? How do you find them? Where do you bring them from normally? What countries?
so most of them right now happen to be from Colombia. So like Taita John comes from Colombia. Arkawa was born in Colombia. He lives in the US now. And Joanna was born in Colombia, lives in the US now. Um, Leandro is from Brazil. How I find them, they kind of find me at this point.
Hmm.
Because it's really, I do reach out to a person here, a person there of interest that I think would be good to bring to the sanctuary, but they really like coming. They really like coming because of what I do, what I provide to the shamans, to the medicine carriers. Um, but yeah, they come from all over the place. I've got a few coming from Peru that I'm getting ready to announce, which I know everybody thinks that Peru is the place where it came from, or the
Right. Yeah, that's where you hear that it's most common.
yeah, that's a fallacy. It's just that the Shipibo, for some reason, have been sort of crowned as this like OG, the original, tribe that served this medicine. That's just not accurate. It's all over South America, all over Colombia, all over Brazil. They've been serving it in all these areas for thousands of years. This the same. It's just that the Shipibo has a really interesting history, a very rich history with this medicine. They are one of the OGs, and they do deserve a lot of respect. They do deserve a lot, but they're not the only. You know,
I saw this wonderful documentary that's on, I want to say it's on Netflix right now, where it's from Colombia, airplane crash, and I think it was like three of the little kids, all the adults die in the plane crash, and they're lost in the jungle for like a month to 2 months. It was something extraordinary, and they had to go to the indigenous kind of population in there to go into the jungle and find them, and the only way they were able to do that is through these ayahuasca experiences where Mother Earth starts speaking to them and tells them exactly where to go. And that's how they find the children who miraculously were still alive. So it goes to show you the power, really, when you are in tune and we're all connected in one, how we can, when we open up our senses, right? How we're just at another, we're performing at another level at that point.
Mhm.
So how do you ensure that the practices remain authentic and respectful of indigenous traditions?
I mean, that comes from choosing who we have to serve the medicine here. I only have people at the altar that have been. Most of them are indigenous to South America, actually. Actually, at this point, there's only one that's not indigenous to South America, and he's been training with the Yawanawa tribe in Brazil for like 14 years. He's trained by the leader of the tribe, Mazzini. So this is really, and he's rich in the history and culture of the Yawanawa tribe. I have a process that I go through with who's going to be able to serve medicine here. There's one is the safety part, and the other one is the authenticity part. And that only comes from like really learning either from the plants deeply or from a teacher deeply. And so I require both. They have to have a teacher that they're currently working with, and they have to have learned from the plants, which means to do a dieta, at least one dieta of 2 months. And that dieta is basically you isolate for 2 months, you eat a very limited diet, and you drink ayahuasca at least every other day, if not more. So in
Oh, wow.
60 days, you would drink it at least 30 times. And then you would add in another plant like Bobinsana or Noya Rao or tobacco, mapacho, to be able to develop um, allies, the plant allies to be able to work in the thing. But you still have to have a teacher that's teaching you and guiding you that you're in regular contact with. That's the people that I would put at the altar at our church.
And how many people normally are in a ceremony together?
Normally, lately, we've been having between 20 and 30. Our max is 40. We won't ever go over 40. But we keep them like medium sized. I find that the small ones leave a lot to be desired in terms of community. And the benefit from the community is all in the integration process, which is the most important part of the whole thing. And the bigger ones, it ends up getting too washed out of like 50 to 100 people. It's just too many. So that 20 to 40 is where I love being.
And is it do you have women, some where it's just like if like for example, I would love to experience ayahuasca and how it can open me up spiritually. But I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with a lot of men around, so do you offer them where it's just women, where it's just men, or is it all co-ed?
We do offer twice a year, we offer a women's only retreat, and we'll probably increase that over time. But I would say to that, if you're uncomfortable with having men in the room while you're doing this work, then I would discourage you from doing a women's only ceremony.
Why is that?
Because seeing men being very vulnerable, diving deep, doing this work, and actually digging in and trying to better themselves and becoming a better human being is very healing for women. It's very
Okay.
healing for women. And especially when there's trauma there. If there's
Well,
trauma,
I think for me, I can only speak for myself, is I would just feel uncomfortable because I've never done it, so I don't know how I'm gonna react. So if I'm vomiting all over the place, I don't know if I'm gonna feel real comfortable if there's a guy right next to me.
so we split men and women up on opposite sides of the room. We
Hmm.
don't mix the energies. And but your concern is valid, right? And a lot of people come with that concern and with that worry. The thing is that the journey is very much internal. It's a journey inside your subconscious mind. And so other people are already also taking that journey in their own subconscious mind. They're not really paying attention to who's throwing up and what they look like when they
Right.
throw.
Yeah, they're in their own zone at that point.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and it makes sense what you're saying, like experiencing a man, right, kind of get so vulnerable and really open up that way just humanizes people even more. And it makes you reflect that, your issues are not as big as you're really making them out to be in your head, right? Which is what happens to most of us. Can you give us any testimonials of, really transformative experiences from clients that you've had go to your retreats?
Sure. I mean, I'm a pretty good testimonial. When I found ayahuasca, I was couch surfing in trap houses. Um, so I had nothing. I was desperate and probably gonna die. There's one that I always love sharing because this is a really amazing one. So there's this woman, her name's Paula. She on Sunday told me the story of why she was there. So at I think 16, younger than 18. She was kidnapped and then basically chained to a wall, chained to a bed, and gang raped every day for like 3 years until
Jesus.
eventually, and they were giving her heroin and all that kind of stuff. And eventually she broke free, took the gun, shot and killed all three of them. Right. So now she's got all of the sexual trauma, the drugs, and now she's got this other trauma of the fact that she like killed three human beings. Um, so then she didn't have anywhere to go though. It's not like she went to shelters for a little while, but she was hooked on heroin, so it was really hard for her to really get a grip on anything. Somehow she saved up the money and then sat with the medicine. So on Sunday, she told me, after telling me this story, that if this didn't work, she was going to go home and
Kill
she was
herself.
going to kill herself.
Yeah.
And so, now she's got a whole full life. She's got parakeets and she's got a
That's
whole thing
amazing.
for herself.
What
Yeah,
a what a great testimonial. Did that happen here in the States or was that in another country?
that happened here in the States.
Jesus.
Yeah. Another one. Let me see if I don't know if I have I don't think I have it right. No. Um, so there's another person, we'll call him T. He came and he's a veteran and he came and he was desperate. He was having some alcohol issues, but really some PTSD issues from war. And just about a month ago, I got a letter from his yeah, I can't find it. I got a letter from his wife saying, "Thank you so much. You saved our family," and a picture of the two of them with their five kids. Just this heartfelt, thank you, thanking me and the team, but really like he was the one who did the work. He's the one who showed up and actually took this stuff to heart and made the shifts. Because they were on the brink.
And in those cases, right, where it's severe trauma, um, in what have you witnessed that from the first ayahuasca retreat or experience that they have, where it changes them when they're open to just receiving whatever messages it is that and answers that they need? Can it happen just from one ceremony that you do, or is it something that you have to consecutively continue to do until you find all these answers?
That really depends on the person. It's
Yeah,
it's an
individual.
individual journey, right? And so a couple of different things could happen. One, a person could take the medicine and be bumped onto this spiritual path, start doing yoga and eating clean and exercising and donating their time to the community and supporting other community members. And then everything shifts and now they're seeking that spirituality. And that can happen after one retreat, right?
Yeah.
You can do that without ayahuasca, actually.
With
You
breath work, like you were saying earlier, right?
breath work. You can do it with yoga. You can do it with prayer, right?
That's
There's a lot.
amazing.
There's,
Meditation.
yeah, meditation is a huge one, right? You can do this with any of these other things, but some people are just blocked, and it serves to unblock them. Now they're on the spiritual path. Now they're going to embrace meditating for an hour a day, shifting their life, right?
So,
Um,
so now this is for me. I have tried meditation. I've never done yoga, but I've tried meditation, and it's very difficult for me to shut off the monkey brain, right? Like I'll sit there, and the quieter I get, the more my brain just starts running and running, and it's like, shut up. And then I've read all these different ways to go about it. Just start again from scratch, from whatever, however it is that you're counting or how you're praying, and start from the beginning until you're able to last a little longer and longer and longer. But I find it very frustrating. And then at the same time, I hear that meditation is different for everyone. Like some people can meditate just by walking outside and looking at trees and grounding with the earth. So for a person like me that can't shut off the monkey brain and I'm trying to get more into meditation and kind of like opening up all those spiritual realms, how would you advise me to go about that?
um, Meditate on it. Their answer is that change your perspective on the fact that your monkey brain is annoying. That's a self-criticism. Stop.
Yeah.
Sit with the thoughts because you don't your heart pumps blood. It doesn't matter how hard you think, you're not going to stop your heart from pumping blood. Your
Hmm.
brain produces thought. It doesn't matter how much you think, you're not going to stop that organ from producing what meant to do. It's not a real thing. It's not a thing. People saying I can stop, wanting to stop my thoughts, that's
Impossible.
It's not impossible, but people dedicate their lives for decades to try and get 5 minutes of no thought.
Yeah.
So that's not the goal of meditation. The goal of meditation is to allow all of those thoughts to pour out. Because what those are going on, whether you're conscious of them or not, sitting still just makes you conscious of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. It's like a messy desk. There's thoughts everywhere.
Right.
But you sit down and you just sit
Or
still.
it's about
Don't
it's about organizing your thoughts, I guess, at that point, right?
cleaning up the desk, letting these
Yeah.
thoughts
I
come
like
out.
that.
So just being aware of your thoughts. That's what meditation is being aware of your thoughts. So if you sit down and you have all these thoughts going all over the place and you're aware of that, then you're doing meditation perfectly.
Okay. There's a great quote that I love reading, and it's like, meditate for 20 minutes a day. Well, I don't have 20 minutes. Well, then meditate for an hour to figure out why you don't have the 20 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so Derek, this has been great information. I'm definitely interested on my end to try this. I'm still a little skeptical. I'm not going to lie to you, but I read so much and I watch so many podcasts. The Sean Ryan podcast with all the veterans, like I said earlier, when we started the podcast. You hear their stories where they're on the verge, on the brink of committing suicide. And, when they have these experiences with ayahuasca and these retreats, it just changes their entire perspective and views on all this negative um, information that they had for themselves, and they learn how to forgive themselves. So, and we all suffer, maybe not at that level where they're fighting in a war, but it's a war that you have within you, that you're looking for that inner peace. And it seems that this is definitely a great way to start with some answers, right? So for anybody that's considering an ayahuasca journey, in your sanctuary, for the first time, what advice would you have for them?
The first advice I would have is sit down, sit still. You want to call it meditation, fine. Sit and just listen to your intuition and see if your intuition is telling you that this is something that's aligned for you. Doesn't matter what Megan Fox and Joe Rogan say. You know, if it's right for you, you'll intuitively know. Now, sometimes fear gets involved in that. That's the ego flaring up, right?
Right.
I'm still afraid of taking ayahuasca. I've taken it 150 times. Every time I'm ready to drink, I'm like, oh, here we go again. It's
Yeah.
comfortable,
Yeah.
right?
What's going to happen this time?
Right. It's not comfortable, but it makes me a better father, a better partner, a better friend, a better leader. It makes me a better, member of society that can, so I do it because of all of the love that I find doing things for other people. Um, so after that, after intuitively that it is right for you, if that's what you find, then you know just go through the process. Just go through the process and trust the process. Whether it's here or at Rhythmia down in Costa Rica or Temple of the Way of Light in Peru, great places to go to, or your local shaman or whatever. Just tap into your intuition, see what is really aligned for you. And if it is, trust the process because your higher self and that mystery that's out there that's feeding information to your higher self and aligning with your higher self, they know so much. They're so smart. They're
Hmm.
so smart. Just tune into that. There's nothing that I should say that's going to convince you to come to an ayahuasca retreat. You need to sit down with yourself.
And they always say that, right? Like listen to that gut feeling, that intuition that we all have, that's our higher self talking to us, that we shut it off because of our ego. And we need to listen to that little voice that's telling us it's okay to do it, try it, and not be so fearful with everything in our lives, right? Like that's no way to live. So how can people learn more about Pachamama and get involved and go to one of your weekend retreats? I'm definitely interested. So I would like more information for myself as well.
Sure. You can always give me a call. My number is right on the website. It's 603-451-8733. If you call or text that number, you're going to get me. You're not going to get some answering service or some other person. Go on the website. The website's pachamamasanctuary.org. And there's lots of information on there. All of our registration process is on there. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can text or call me. If you prefer email, my email is Derek at Pachamama Retreats with an S.org. Love to hear from you, even if you just are curious and you want to have a conversation. I have those all the time, and I kind of love it.
What is the cost of a weekend retreat?
Our retreats run between 750 and 850, and that covers everything. The whole retreat, all your food, your lodging. It includes the workshops on Saturday, and it includes integration support ongoing for as long as you need it. Some people tap into our integration program for years. There's never going to be a charge for it, and we hope everybody comes like a lot.
Well, thank you so much, Derek, for taking the time to speak with us. Amazing information. I'll definitely be linking all of his social media, his website on the comment section in our YouTube channel. Um, I think this is important. You know, this is something that's happened for me in my spiritual growth, where I'm tapping more into that intuition where it's telling me to contact you, right? Like I found you for a reason. And I do believe that also it's all that alignment. Once you open yourself up, it just starts entering your life and everything that's not supposed to be there kind of gets out of the way so that the right stuff can come in and you can continue to grow. And like you said earlier, serve others, right? Because I do believe that genuinely that is what we are all here to do is we're here to serve others and help other people. So thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for all this wonderful information. If anybody wants to reach, you have all his contact, Derek, Pachamama Sanctuary, located in Maine. Thank you again, Derek. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, this has been great.
Yeah. All right, Derek, take care.